This is one of the things which made contact with the wet rot, annoyingly. The shrooms had penetrated through the floorboard and sunk their dirty tentacles into what I think is jarrah, maybe sapele. Anyway, I was keeping this frame to fix up one day and use it as a full body mirror for when I had the space to utilize it. A friend of mine gave it to me half made or half modified. I'm not sure where it came from. It might have been part of a panel or furniture. It definitely feels like it should frame something. Anyway, it needed a bit of work when I got it, and now it needs a lot more. I'm painting the entire frame with wet rot hardener because the stuff does change the colour of the surface. It's a very runny liquid, so it penetrates deeply into the timber. That's how it works. I'm also working with the window open because it stinks. If you are sensitive to resinous fumes, I would suggest shaving your beard and putting a vapor mask on, in addition to keeping the window open. Or better still, work outside. The bottom section has been damaged by the wet rot and is ever so slightly spongy with some stains. I think I caught it just in time. I'm going to try clean up this area and treat the damage with wet rot hardener so it doesn't get any worse, but I also want to try distress the rest of the frame to make it look a bit more consistent. So before I mention the obvious, to try and distress wood, the most successful way of doing it is actually using wet rot. But it's not everyone's cup of tea working with this organic, naturally occurring material. Okay, it's the following day. What I'm going to do is try and distress the wood a little bit. I'm going to start with a wire brush and just take any soft bits off and try and make the grain a little bit more pronounced. I mean, I've got some old furniture, as an example of something that's naturally aged with the butts of tailors. I did a job a while back for a tailor on Savile Row, and I built them some new stools. This was quite a while ago, and I noticed that they were throwing the old ones away, so I managed to grab these, and you can see the effect of being sat on for so many years. It's really sort of made the grain really pronounced in certain places, so the softer part, which is between the lines, has worn away, and the grain itself, this is just so bizarre how this has been made. It's like a strip has been added here. So I've had these around the workshop just ever since. I think they need a bit of a TLC, to be honest. The way that could be achieved is with sandblasting, but I obviously don't have that as an option here, so this is the next best thing. There's a little odd feature on this. This section here and around the top and the bottom have a rounded edge. I flip that around, this side here there's a sharp edge. I think I actually need to round that over. And to do that, I'll use my router and a round over bit, which has a ball bearing at the end. There are fungal spores all around us. We breathe them in and out. It's quite normal. They only become a problem when the environmental factors result in them actually growing. In the case of wet rot, it's when the moisture content reaches a high enough level and the airflow is restricted, which prevents areas drying out. Also, the lights have to be quite low to get them in the mood. I've now got a razor blade, and this one has a kind of serrated edge, and I'm going to scratch into the surface, take some of the wet rot hardener off. This really is all you need. Razor blade and a wire brush. There's no need to making these Walking Dead-esque zombie killing tools. It's just, you know, it looks good in the videos but doesn't actually really do anything. There's a coffee shop that I go to that has the most horrendous tabletops. In fact, I'll take a picture and put it on screen now. Essentially, it's almost like a really uniformed aging attempt. Screwdriver box section, smaller box section, maybe a knife, maybe a, God knows what that is, maybe the point of a nail. You can tell when the wood's been hit with a piece of box tubing or a screw or something. It's just so obvious. Really missing the kind of detail which I think only comes about over a long period of time. You know, to do this properly, it takes time to age wood. It's hard work on your hands. So what I'm going to do now is use the methylated spirit to try and raise the grain on the sections that I've cleared the wet rot hardener. Definitely recommend wearing a chemical mask if you're using this stuff. I've got the door and the window open. This dries in an hour. So I'm going to be gone for an hour. I'm going to go have a cup of tea, wait somewhere else, let the air clear a little bit, and then when I'm back I'm going to stand this up and leave it to dry properly for a few days. So I've got 3 of these stools. They're slightly different, but they all have one thing in common: they're quite old, but they are a little bit wobbly. So I'm going to take them apart and try to reconstruct them to strengthen them, but to keep the character of the stools as they are. Okay, it's had a bit of time to dry. I'll start reassembling it, but I'm putting the nails at a slight angle just to kind of pinch the material together. It's actually a lot harder than it looks. Okay, I've done all three. I actually did all the painting with the wet rot hardener outside. That particular product has a lot of styrene in the mix, and I don't know if you know much about it, but it's actually not particularly good for you, to the level of like it's really atrociously bad for you. I don't know why it's still legal, to be honest. After a little while I left them to cure properly. It's probably a few weeks, not a month, and then I started to paint them with this outdoor varnish. Done 3 coats so far. I'll probably do another 1 or 2, and these will be nicely sealed and they should last quite a while. They used to be wood, now they're made out of plastic, and it's the same for the frame as well. I will order some glass mirror or maybe acrylic for this, and once I've completed everything and get them in situ, I will upload some images to my Instagram account so you can check out how they finally look away from the busy surroundings of the workshop. As always, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed that and found that useful. Please make sure you read the safety instructions of any products and chemicals that you use involved in especially restoration stuff. I think I was a bit overzealous with the wet rot hardener. It definitely isn't the safest thing to use. The fumes are horrendous, so if you can work outside with that, do. And also, it's not a top coat finishing product. What you want to do after you've used something like that is to then paint the treated surface. So in this case I used exterior varnish. So that's me done. Until the next one.